So we scaled in the first year to $3 million in ARR. Most of that $3 million scaling was literally without nearly no employees. We asked questions in the interviews today, do you use Claude? And if the answer is no, it's unlikely we're going to hire you. So the most sophisticated companies today leverage, in my opinion, all three. They have humans, they have agents, and they have agencies. We just hired actually a VP right now recently. But the one that didn't make it said that their answer to our continued scale is more people. I was like, oh my God, this sounds like old school.
In this episode, we sit down with Frank, CEO and founder of Salesforge, an all-in-one outbound platform that helps companies scale personalized outreach with AI and automation. He shares how he scaled his business to over 3 million in revenue in under 12 months with hardly any employees. He also shares how he built a following of over 35,000 people on LinkedIn that gives him consistent inbound leads, and his approach to building systems before he ever increases headcount. So let's jump straight in. Frank, great to see you. How are you, sir?
Yeah, you too. I'm very good.
Great. Thanks for coming on. Last time we saw each other, we were in Portugal drinking wine on a rooftop. A bit more civilized now. How are you getting on since?
Good. I did get burned though on that rooftop. I didn't realize,
I was the same.
I had to recover after that for a fair bit, so I guess it was too much wine. Yeah, I would say doing well, since the last time we met each other, I think was nearly a year ago. We're always growing as a business. And I would say particularly in the last 3 to 4 months, we're going for what we call this sort of hyperscale mode where we're growing 10-20%.
I suppose just so some people don't know you, some people do know you, could you give us a 30-second intro, who you are, what Salesforge does as well?
Yeah. So I'm a typical, what you describe as sales guy. That has been around in sales for over a decade. In the front line, typically, being an account exec, also as a CSM for some time. And then in my last gig, I had a sales team of about 50 reps. And so back in those days, like 3 years ago, it was sort of growing at all costs, right? So more headcount meant more pipeline, better coverage, and more revenue, right? And the VCs would kind of breathe down your neck and saying, Frank, come on, we need to hire a few more reps because that will be more pipe, more growth. And then we could raise our next round, to burn a bit more cash and so on and so forth. And that was totally acceptable 3 years ago. Today, that's not anymore the norm or the case. So you could look at us as a sort of AI first or agent first as a company, systems first as a company. So we build a lot of systems. We do a lot of activity. We build these go-to-market machines. So we scaled in the first year to $3 million in ARR. Most of that $3 million scaling was literally without nearly no employees. I think the first employee that we hired was on support because we just had way too many intercom tickets coming through. And then we hired a second engineer, and these were like our, first 2 hires. And then at 2 million or $3 million ARR, then we started to hire like a go-to-market motion because you realize that after sort of 2-3 million, you're not going to get to 10 million and to 50 million unless you have a proper team.
And yeah, I was going to mention that to you, 0 to 3 in under 12 months, which is insane. And you were bootstrapped.
So not truly bootstrapped, I would say.
Okay.
We did raise $500,000, but when you raise $500,000 and you go at this sort of velocity and scale and you haven't raised another round, another seed round, nothing else, some people call us a bootstrap company as well because 500K that we raised back in the days is nothing. We didn't actually even manage to spend a single dollar of that money.
Just in the bank account.
So it just sits in the bank for the last 2 years since we raised the money. But we will raise the next round, not because, we need the money, but because we want to go from sort of gear 5 that we're in right now into gear 6, because gear 6 is very expensive. You need to have boots on the ground in the US. You need to have more engineering manpower. You're building more products, etc.
And you're 0 to 3 million with hardly any employees. How did you do that?
It's hard to explain sort of even in one sentence or even, on this pod. But the easiest way to look at it, so first and foremost, right? So I'm building a software for my former self because I had that pain around, hey, I'm scaling a company only through more headcount. And because, the process of the software did not allow me to scale or improve conversion rates. So I had that pain. I thought to myself, damn, hiring more people is not the answer. For every 10 salespeople that you hire, only one person is natural, like really good. You can smell the bacon in them. 2 to 3 people are like sponges, and they could be trained up and they could be somewhat similar as the sort of the natural person, right? So, and then the 60% is typically the dead wood, the people that should not be in sales, but they somehow just land in the sales, right? But that was the only way for you to hire whoever in the market and then scale the company that way. And I thought to myself, why wouldn't I keep somehow the 40% of the people and scale those up. What would the software look like? So essentially, I had the experience. I was in sales, for 10 years, and I thought to myself, the sales guy has to build a sales software for the salespeople, to solve this problem. That was also allow companies to be leaner and meaner, right? So have a significantly lower headcount for opportunity dollar that you're generating. Um, and so you have essentially what's called domain expertise, very important, right?
Yeah.
And there's this sort of saying when you start a company, and what VCs look at is what's called the founder market fit. So we had a super strong founder market fit, and that as a result, when you're connecting with the person on a call, or even whatever you're posting on LinkedIn or X, it resonates with the market. People want to talk to you. So yeah, so this is one like critical component. The other critical component that people don't talk about is how do you actually scale that fast? Is you needed to find people that would go crazy about starting a company and that would love to work 7 days a week. You need to have that hunger for success, not just in the CEO who typically does sales, but also on the engineering front. So, and then I was looking for myself, where do you get these people? So I found them on YC matchmaking platform, which is, I would say, the number one source for finding good co-founder talent. Doesn't matter whether you're in Europe or the US. And I tell other people to always go there and find, and it's like Tinder for founders, essentially. You go and swipe, whatever. So you need essentially what's called an A player on the sales or like distribution front, but you also need an A player or A players on the shipping front. And so the founder market fit is important. And just to give an idea what happened in the first 3 months, we only acquired like 100 customers, and that was with Salesforge, which was our initial product. But when you listen to customers, and I would do like back in the days, maybe like I would still do like 10 demos a day. I even have 11 demos today. Still after 3 years, I'm still doing 10 plus demos a day. But like back in the days, I would do 10 demos. So you speak to 10 people, and you realize why you're not actually going beyond 100 customers in 3 months. And so there was this blocker where we understood that in every conversation, there was this blocker around converting a customer, like where we told them that they need to buy these domains and email accounts to set up the email infrastructure. So we would send them to like GoDaddy. We would tell them, hey, go to GoDaddy, set it up. Here's a help desk document, how to do it. And a lot of them did it either wrongly or didn't want to do it, or they said it was too expensive, etc. So then I started to do it. I said, okay, if you pay me like $100 a month, I'll do it for you. And that's exactly what I did. And I realized, damn, this is not scalable if we're going to be helping out every single person. Why don't we just build a second product that will solve the infrastructure problem? And then we're going to sell two products essentially to the same customer. And guess what? Exactly this is what happened. So after 3 months, we paused the development of our first product, which is Salesforge, which is all about sending unique emails. And we started shipping the second product. We shipped the second product, the MVP, literally in about a month. And I still remember the deal that we closed with the second product was 10 times higher than the first deal with Salesforge. So we also understood there's a lot of potential in infrastructure revenue and business, and that gave us the signal that we should plow ahead. So like what I'm trying to say here is like the reason why things went for a hockey stick is because we did have this first product, so we were kind of scaling like this, but like with the second product, we started to go like really for hockey stick, right? So sometimes the answer for hockey stick growth is like, you need to build a second product. So keep listening to your customers, try and figure out why they're not buying, and then speak to your engineer saying, hey guys, listen, they all keep telling us that they need domains and mailboxes. So unless we build a domains and mailbox solution, we're not going to go for hyperscale. And that was a major hit after 3 months. And then literally in 6 months, you could argue we made $3 million because the initial MRR was like tiny. I would say like 10K in MRR that we're at, within 3 to 6 months. And then, yeah, bam, $1 million in the 1 month. And then it just went off. So
I suppose that's why it's so important to have the founders in still selling for quite some time, because I suppose you're hearing that feedback from the customers and then you're pivoting in real time. Whereas if you outsource that straight away, you wouldn't see that.
Yes, exactly. So if you're speaking to, like, you have so many touch points with your ICP every single week, then it's impossible, to get it wrong, really, because as long as you're listening to your customers, yes, you're pivoting or you're making these major, not major, but like the major change was less for us, it was just shipping the second product. We wanted to do that anyway from the get-go, but like, we're like, hey, we need to pause the first one. Let's ship the second one. That was, I would say, the biggest exchange that we had in the business. But like, there's like these little things that really matter, and they compound, like this feature or this little button, or this doesn't make sense, Guess what? There's like thousands of these things that customers will tell you that they're really annoyed about. And that's why jumping in a call, you can think of a call as well as a sort of a user interview call as well.
Fast forward to today, you have a team of, about 50. What are you automating versus keeping human within the business?
The framework, the little framework that I use in for any problem that I have or anything that we need to do is like, so we have this problem, and we would look at can this problem be solved through an agentic off-the-shelf solution? um, or not. So an example, agentic off-the-shelf solution would be either Agent Frank. It would be another solution that we have on the website called, say, Karumi. Karumi is an agentic demo solution. So you can just go and install Karumi and you can talk. You can check it out. If you go to this website, top right, a click, bam, it does an overlay, and you can talk to a real agent about any whatever questions you have. You don't have to book in a time with a human or sales rep. A lot of people actually, by the way, don't like sales reps, right? So they want to just explore the power. So, and if it doesn't exist, either it doesn't exist or the solution is poor because the technology hasn't advanced, then I would look to build that in NA10. Like, how do we, so I have a problem, I cannot solve it through off-the-shelf solution, then I'm going to go to my RevOps guy and say, hey, listen, I have this problem. Can you please build an NA10 workflow for this? If that does not exist, then you start thinking about, okay, I have a problem. My first sort of human solution is actually hiring an agency. So essentially it's somebody like you, right? So let's say I need to hire somebody and I need to hire a person, and I could get a person like a recruiter internally, and we did try that. Guess what? The guy got fired. Well, an agency typically has a network, quite a vast network, or they working with different companies, so they have also a lot of experience, and they can essentially deliver value quickly because they're already doing this every day for different companies. They already have a process. They already fine-tuned the process. So, like, if I have a specific requirement, then I try and go with an agency as my first answer to my human, solution, rather than hiring an employee. So today, even for my go-to-market motion, I have like 5+ agencies. So I have, for example, humans running in my go-to-market motion. So these 6 reps. I have agents running go-to-market. So I have Agent Frank sending cold emails, LinkedIn messages to every person. Then I have another agent on the website. Then I have another agent that calls. So I have like 10+ agents there, and then I have like 5+ agencies that do go-to-market for me as well. So the most sophisticated companies today leverage, in my opinion, all 3. They have humans, they have agents, and they have agencies. And so if you have all these 3 in play, I would call you an advanced company.
Say, for example, I'm a startup or you scale up, I'm looking to implement these 3 channels. Like, are tier 1 customers going to humans first versus, I suppose, the agency and AI route? Or how do you segment your accounts into those channels?
So when a customer comes to us today, so let's say I do a demo, right?
Yeah.
With some, let's say, business, whatever they are. And they're like, Frank, we need more pipeline, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, cool. So then give me more context. Tell me about your ICP. Tell me, are you competent? Tell me, do you have time for this? Tell me about your market. And then I'm trying to think, all right, do I have a belief that you and your team are competent enough to use my tech to scale up? Is question 1. And if the answer is yes, great. Okay, go and use my software. Here you go. Here are the solutions, blah, blah, blah. Then in a lot of cases, people are very smart and very competent. And they're like, Frank, I don't have the time for this. And then if their market is a market where you have a relatively good velocity, you have product market fit, you have product channel fit, then you should use the agent. But the agent doesn't always work. So if your agent doesn't work when you do enterprise sales, we have complex sales cycles, or you're in commodity like SEO services or even the recruitment services, don't use agents, by the way, like would not work essentially. So the agent needs like a killer offer. It needs proof that if you did outreach manually, so via email or cold email, and it has worked for you, then the agent will do the same thing and better and cheaper, So typically agents are really good if you have very specific TAM, very specific ICP, and the time is the problem, right? And you want to kill labor hours, you pass to the agent. Now, the agencies are very good for something super complex. So for example, there's somebody that has a very, very complex ICP, and the agent will not be able to source the leads for the IC, for that ICP. They don't have the competence, to go and use our data product or use something like Clay, etc. as well. So the agency is like the natural choice because the agency builds these complex lists for different sort of ICPs every day for different customers, right? So they have the competence. They've been doing this every day, right? So this is the easy, even though they maybe are more expensive, I always say price is always relative, versus the value that you deliver. You need value fast. You need these lists fast, like yesterday, but they're very complex. You want to go to these agencies. I call them system builders. They build systems, their own AI, Claude, Gemini, Clay, whatever, you name it, It's their job to figure out, but they are thinking from a system standpoint. A lot of the sales reps in the market or like founders, they don't think about systems that much. So you need to have in your own company like system builders. And if you don't have these system systems builders, then you need to work with an agency.
Do you think that's changed over the last couple of years? In sales, it's quite old school, right? You have a list, you go after it. Now it's more about the infrastructure. The
Yes.
sales is nearly the byproduct of
Yeah.
that, you know? Is that how you're seeing it going at the minute?
Yeah, so I speak to a lot of agencies out there naturally, and a lot of these agencies are our customers. And so the agencies that make more money and are more profitable and have fewer, also not that many customers actually, are the ones that where they have a system, they have an infrastructure, and whatever that system means, you're essentially building essentially a tech layer to your agency, and that system, that machine, is the reason why you can accommodate more customers. You don't need suddenly that many humans to service your customers, so your margins improve as well. And then you can be very choosy as to which clients you work with as well. So you don't have that many clients. But you're seeing essentially today, not whether you're an agency or just whatever, SaaS company, whatever, that you are suddenly able to drive so much output with few humans and a good system, something that was not possible 2 years ago. It doesn't matter what your recruitment, etc. It is possible, whether using Claude or N8N or all these tools. And what will happen essentially is that all these companies, like enterprise companies, they're going to be doing mass layoffs. I'm already seeing that. Like, look at Jack Dorsey, for example. Look at Meta, laying off thousands and thousands of people. So all that fat is being trimmed right now, because also the problem with employees is, if you think about it, is they're used to do things like they've been done like 5 years ago. And a lot of people are not sort of changing and adapting to the fact that you need to do today to be what's called AI native employee. You need to be opening up ChatGPT every day. Well, today's Claude. Today you're opening up Claude every day. And if you're not opening up a Claude every day, then I could argue you're also failing at the same time in a way, because you will be most likely replaced, because the CEOs of the boards of big companies, they only want to have AI native employees, because an AI native employee has a far higher output level for a company, impact for a company, than a non-AI native employee. So it's the same for me. Why would I, like, the first, we ask questions in interviews today, do you use Claude? And if the answer is no, it's unlikely we're going to hire you. And if you do use Claude, I'm excited to hear what you're building or what you're doing with Claude. Like, how do
Yeah.
you kill repetitive stuff? I did it in an interview with this VP salesperson out of US, because we just hired actually a VP right now recently. But the one that didn't make it said that their answer to our continued scale is more people. I was like, oh my God, this sounds like old school. Essentially, the pitch was very old school. Like, it was from 5 years ago. Let's scale through more bodies. We're gonna have more bodies here, more bodies there, and more bodies there. And it's like, so where's the system? There was no system, nothing nothing, on that front. And so I felt very disappointed. You're pitching to an AI company or an
Yeah.
agentic company, more bodies. There was misalignment culturally, just generally. I was expecting a system. This is how we're gonna do this. So that was the hiring process for that person. And of course, didn't make it versus the other person that did make it. Guess what? This person did the whole presentation in Claude Code. So, Frank, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to do it this way. Yeah, it was all built in Claude Code. I got to use Claude Code for this. I got to use that. And then this is how we're going to do it. So essentially, also the leaders in the companies, like sales leaders and whatever, customer success leaders, they should be using Claude Code. Their job is not just to manage, but their job is to, hey, quickly pull a report from HubSpot using Claude Code, doing this and that, using Claude Code, essentially using themselves, and then being the person that people look up to, and wanting to be like that. So I'm also looking to at my reps, whether they're using Claude Code. I'm looking at my customer success managers, whether they're using Claude Code. I'm telling my content team, are you using Claude Code to generate more content, or, do it more systematic. That's what I'm looking for. And I think all smart leaders are looking for this. And if you're not looking for this, my question to you is why you're not looking for this,
So just to summarize, so if you were a scale up now looking to increase revenue without headcount, you'd first look at problems that you get in, you'd try solve those problems with AI. If you can't, you'd outsource to an agency. And then if they can't do it, you then increase the headcount. But I suppose it does depend then on your TAM and the motion that you're selling in as well.
Yes, but you should be automate. Let's call it, let's use the word automating. You should be automating or trying to build these, let's call it mini systems, whatever. You should try automate stuff on day zero, like everything.
But how are you doing that? Are you hiring GTM engineer? Like, say if you're a startup scale up,
I asked my CTO
doing it yourself.
The first automation that was, let's call it custom built, but it was a quick build. Like, when a lead signs up to our product, we'll get a Slack notification. That's all. That was the first automation. And that automation still exists there since day zero. since we implemented it. So it
Yeah.
says very simple things like name, surname, the telephone number that we do collect. And then we send a WhatsApp message, by the way, on inbound. WhatsApp messages on inbound have a 20x higher reply rate than an email. Just think about that.
Okay.
You
Wow.
can also
Yeah.
send an iMessage, by the way, also on for that, just as a fallback if the WhatsApp is not available. Anyway, so that's like everything needs to compound. Like these systems, automations have to compound. So, for example, today we have 300 plus NA10 workflows, but we literally start with one workflow, then we add a second one, and a third one, and suddenly there's like this huge web under the
Yeah.
hood, what we call the bacon backbone. That's running the machine. If this happens, do that, and do this, and so on and so forth. And that's exactly what you need. But if we didn't do that every week, building more workflows, then we wouldn't be that efficient. We wouldn't be able to grow 10, 20% because it would be impossible to grow at this rate because we don't know how to have the infrastructure you need to build it up from day zero, not just, oh, let's do it later. Sure.
I
When you're
think,
going to do it later,
yeah,
it's going to be
I
too
think
late.
it's like, yeah, I think 'cause even for myself, it's like you're trying to solve future issues that haven't come up yet, and it's overwhelming. Whereas your
Yes.
mentality is very much just fix the issue that you have right now, automate it, and then just build on that
Yes.
instead
And
of
we
trying to
even have
fix everything at the one time.
Yes, many of them come actually from me, but also you can democratize this, as in you can create a Slack channel where you, let's say it's called NA10 ideas on our end. So people can just drop an idea and it just goes into like a spreadsheet, and then we would prioritize, based on revenue, what we would build, so you can democratize, you can ask people what's painful for them in their department,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
and then just have a sort of a quota for the Revelos guy. We even hired an NA10 engineer part-time just to keep building every week. His job was just to build. If he looks at the sheet, he builds. Looks at the sheet, he builds every week. Every week had to build 10 NA10 workflows. And that's how you get to 300. And sure, it needs a bit of maintenance, right? So NA10 doesn't go away. If you didn't do that, the alternative is then I would have to have hired a lot more humans or an agency or whatever, to do all of that. So yeah, so that, like, do it early essentially, but start
yeah.
with like simple things like CRM automations or like whatever. Like, trust me, you will be very grateful after a year or two that you've been doing this on day zero.
I suppose a lot of people are saying outbound is dead, right?
Mhm.
You're getting, you mentioned 7,000 demos a month, which is wild. Per year, that's crazy. Is that coming down to that system that you've set up, or is it to do with the product? Like, how are you getting that many demos?
Good question. So I think first is there's a strong product market fit, meaning we are solving what we call the headcount problem. We are solving email, and then we're solving also sub problems like email deliverability, the need to
Mm.
scale or scale with the fewest bodies, the need to personalize an email, the need to get good data. There's a lot of different problems that we solve because we have such a big market. So when you have a big market and if you're selling into SMBs, which is what we're doing, then you should be getting these demos. And as long as unit economics makes sense, as in, hey, if a person pays me at least 2K a year for my subscription, and you're selling many of these, let's say like 10 of these a month, a rep would sell, then the unit economics makes sense to just keep on scaling. So yeah, it typically is because it's a big market. You have a painkiller product rather than a vitamin. You have a painkiller. People need pipeline. It's an evergreen topic. I need pipe. I need more pipe. Frank, I need pipe. If I'm not going to get more pipe, I'm dying as a business. These are conversations that we're having every day with people.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're in the must-have category. People need pipeline. We are also in the category where people switch tools all the time. It's like the socks, they keep switching them up. So if this still didn't work, then they're gonna go and try the next tool, right? And we're trying to be the last software that you're ever gonna try, naturally. And there's multiple reasons on how we go about this, but the pitch also has to be solid, as in why you, especially when you're in the red ocean. So the category
Yeah.
that we're in, sales technology, like emails or
Super
whatever, is
saturated.
one of
Yeah.
the worst categories in the world. Like, according to a lot of VCs that we spoke to, so when we raised our pre-seed round of $500,000, we had to speak to over 100 VCs to actually close the $500,000, just to give you an idea. But one of the reasons why they never want to invest in us, even though they said, Frank, your team is stellar, you're absolutely amazing as a team, but the market you chose is one of the worst markets in the world. The sales technology market. Yo, you have over 100 competitors. You're never going to make it, they told us. Now we're laughing,
You're acquiring customers
Yeah.
because people change, but are you also churning
Yes,
customer as
of course.
well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never hide from churn. Churn
Yeah.
is something that will inevitably happen. So why does churn happen? Of course, there's bugs. Of course, things don't work out. But also, like, let's think of it, sort of holistically. Like, there's a business owner and he needs pipeline. and he can choose whether to spend some of these money on a tool called Salesforge or on Google Ads, or put some money into SEO or whatever else you want to do, right? But guess what? This will work, that will not work, etc. Because you don't have the product. You may have product market fit, but you may not have a product channel fit. So you're gonna go and test out Salesforce to see if you have a product channel fit, and if you don't, then you churn. So I used to work at Google, also a long time ago in back in Dublin, and we had the same problem. Like Google was churning ad spend like crazy. So people would go and spend like, 1 or 2K in euros on ads, and then they saw zero conversions, they would go and churn. It's the same thing with us. If you don't see the ROI, you just go and churn. So yeah, churn is like crazy in this segment, like, because people consistently try the product and we don't stop them, right? Because we're like, sure, go and try. I have no idea if you have a product market fit or product channel fit, but go and try it, And for those people that it works out, they go and continue scaling, right? So we have customers that pay us, even $500,000 a year as well on a product. So like they can like really scale up, and we're usage-based pricing, we have. But the other way we tackle churn over time is over the last 3 years, we built 7 products, and we became a bit like this sort of Apple ecosystem. It's called this software compound model. We kept on compounding more and more softwares on top of each other, and then the customer can come and pick and choose which softwares they want to get. But once you get into our ecosystem, where you have just on average higher output levels than point solutions, you're getting them. Also lower cost on average. And then we're also seeing that people really appreciate speaking to one support team than multiple support teams. All of this has this whole ecosystem kind of play is massively helping us to scale. And you just think about Apple, right? So once you get into Apple, the Apple experience, you don't want to leave the ecosystem, right? Anymore.
No.
And that's exactly the sort of feeling that we're creating.
And from an outbound perspective, emails aren't getting delivered in some cases, right? So, and that's going to increase. What are you seeing working at the minute?
Good question. The problem that people make today is they believe that a particular channel will be the answer to their outbound problem. So like, for example, somebody will say, I just want to send them gazillions of emails. I said, that's not how outbound works. You don't just send gazillions of emails, that's it. That's not how it works. So how does it actually work? When you have other components also playing, a part, for example, do you have a solid website? If you're wondering what a solid website is, go into my website and go and check it out. What does a solid website look like? Do you have a solid LinkedIn presence? Go to my LinkedIn profile, have a look what is LinkedIn, or go to Ian's profile, have a look what is a proper LinkedIn profile and proper presence. You have presence. You need to be out there. You need to be a somebody. So when people will Google you, who is Frank Saunders, there's a bunch of, just Google it on Google, you'll see there's so much stuff about me. Oh, he must be a somebody. Okay, cool. There's some sort of, it feels like he knows what he's talking about, So you need to build that up, over time. It's not something that you do in a day, right? And guess what? All of this helps you massively to make your outbound work. And so this is what's called, you're warming up your audience all the time. On LinkedIn, I'm posting like every day. I'm trying to do something that's what's called edutaining. Essentially, it's educational, but it's also entertaining at the same time, trying to do more of that. And it's working out, really well. Sometimes I would do like a movie skit, for example, or movie skit. It was, something that we would do. Sometimes I would just take a video from either TikTok or Instagram, about some sort of cold caller that said something funny. There was a recently sort of an Aussie guy, that talked about, undies and stuff like that. So that's going really well. But like, you need to make sure you are, whatever you're doing, you're addressing your ICP, right? So we're trying to entertain essentially salespeople or founders. And sometimes it's just funny, sometimes it's just educational. But the blend of the two is where the magic happens, right?
And I suppose that's on to my next point. Branding, personal branding. You've nailed that. You've almost 40,000 followers on LinkedIn. You post stuff that's somewhat controversial sometimes, right? This whole bacon thing so like, how important do you think personal branding is with your success in Salesforge?
Well, very much. So much that even in our CRM, we have this attribution category called Frank. So when somebody signs up and in an open field on the sign up form says, where do you hear about us? People just put Frank.
Or the bacon.
So bacon, yeah. Or bacon, somebody put recently Bacon Lord, Bacon Meister, so many different things. Essentially it justifies us to, justifies to ourselves and to everybody in the company that we should spend on this attribution category called Frank. And whatever that means, whether it means sending Frank to an event, it means Frank posting on LinkedIn, it means let's build a bunch of assets for Frank to post. And this is the first thing you want to do. And the next thing that you want to do, what do the companies do that scale to 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, etc.? From 1 franc, they get 10 francs on LinkedIn. This is the power move. The power move is you found other, 10 people that have also authority in the space. And then you have this sort of, I can't remember what there's this one lady from Lovable. She's the head of growth. She called it something anyway, but it's like building this sort of, a little army of influencers essentially within the company. And we're all posting, and the amplification is just like crazy, crazy good. And yeah, so it is super important. It has multiple different benefits. So apart from acquisition, outbound suddenly works so much better. So when we hit up people on email, on LinkedIn, a lot of them are, oh yeah, I know Frank. I've seen Frank, right? Because we've been always, doing what's called reach. We're optimizing for reach. I don't care about the likes, the comments. I'll look at the impressions, how many impressions I'm generating. It's like what top level marketing typically want to do. They buy reach with Google, with Meta, etc. I'm trying to do reach. And so I'm doing reach on LinkedIn, sometimes on X. This is where I'm failing, actually. I mean, it's not like everything is great. Like where I do suck as a founder, and there's a lot of ideal customers on, is X. And I have a really cool friend of mine. He runs a company called Goji Berry, and they're like going viral on Reddit like every day nearly. Like he's doing a fantastic job. So if you want to find another Frank like on X, the guy, his name is Roman. He runs everything on X. And he does a fantastic job. So yes, when he hits up then people on outbound, or I hit up people on outbound, or LinkedIn, or even on X, we are a somebody, And guess what happens to convert from a reply rate of less than 1%? You probably could easily jump to like 2 or 3% reply rates. So like 2x, 3x performance. Suddenly, because you have a solid brand, you keep on advertising, and so it is super important. And so I've been doing this, prior to starting Salesforge. Then when I started Salesforge, that I keep posting. I even do it now every Saturday, Sunday. Why do you do it weekends? Because you have less competition. When in the feed, you should also post these days on Saturdays and Sundays because of competition. Because everybody's like, I'm not gonna post. Like, I'm getting less reach, but that reach, the weekend reach, is incremental reach. Why don't you do it? Yes, it will be less reach than Monday to Friday, but it's still incremental. It's still impactful because of the lower competition during the weekends.
I'm quoting something that you said to me, right? You said LinkedIn is the most underpriced attention channel in B2B right now.
Yes.
Everyone is wasting it on thought leadership posts. Post something real, post your numbers, post your failures. That's what converts. So talk us through that. Yeah, what are you actually posting?
So, I mean, something that you should be posting is like, what's happening in your life as a founder? What are you doing? People want to follow you. They want to follow the journey. That's one thing. The second thing is you want to educate people, because you do cold email or whatever, cold email, or you do LinkedIn outreach, or you do something with the AI agents. Educate people on these sort of problems. And then the last one, which is probably gonna do something more on LinkedIn, is drama. People love drama on LinkedIn. So these are probably 3 different buckets of how I look at, something about my founder journey, something about educational / entertaining, and then the last bucket is drama. Pick a fight with somebody, on LinkedIn, whether you didn't tell them about it or you did tell them about it, you agreed to pick a fight. But the type of things that we do on LinkedIn, so you can go to my LinkedIn profile and there's a featured section there. You can see some of the stuff that I do feature, but naturally we will do multiple different things. From, let's say on the 1st of April, we would put out something funny. So for example, last year I did a LinkedIn post where I said I got fired, that went viral. Even our investors did not know that I was putting out that post. And I told everybody that I was cooking the books. I was getting ready for Series A. And then the investors realized that I was cooking the books and they fired me immediately. So we orchestrated really well. I got over 500 messages in a day about that post, just to give you an idea. So this is my kind of viral moment. I tried to repeat that this year. It didn't work out too well. The thing that we had this year is where we said that Tesla has acquired Salesforge to build autonomous walking agents called autonomous pitch. So we would install essentially Agent Frank on the Optimus, the walking bot by Elon Musk, and they would go and do cold walking essentially, and book demos that way. So you do something that people don't expect. And then the other things that we do is like movie skits, right? So we take something that people enjoy. So this is the edutainment piece. They enjoy movies, right? And instead of, whatever they say typically in the movie, we will kind of package this into the world of Salesforge, of cold email, outbound, LinkedIn, outreach. We did the Limitless one, a Wolf of Wall Street. We do so many of them, and we got to do more of them.
If I'm listening to this, I'm a founder in the cybersecurity space, and I'm like, that doesn't suit my persona. What do you say to that? Is this for specific personas, do you think? Because you're dealing with salespeople.
No, I think edutainment can be done in many different ways for different ICPs. So it definitely can be done, even in the industries. If you're selling to lawyers, or if you're selling to in cybersec, etc., can still be done. You can't just, push the limits as much as I would, because I'm selling to salespeople, founders. I can push
Yeah.
the limits like hardcore, but you can definitely do something about it, right? Because think of it this way: you have to, like, you're scrolling the feed, on LinkedIn. Is this a scroll stopper, or not? Is the question, If it's not a scroll stopper, don't do it. And don't post it, I guess, People have to stop, they have to engage, they have to click save button, right? Because they learned something, or they have to forward it to their friends, or because you can see the analytics. Did they forward that post? That forwarding is super powerful. So these two signals, saving and sending as a message, kicks in the algorithm, right? So they would only send if they learned something, or if it was entertaining. If it's something boring, like, people will, like, not really engage, really. So yeah, I believe it can be done in any industry, in many different ways. I mean, the other way you sort of growth hack, sort of, also engagement on LinkedIn these days, even though I'm not a super big fan, but I still do it time to time, is the lead magnets, essentially. And you can build lead magnets in any industry. Right now, there's a bunch of lead magnets about Claude, whatever is trending, right? So essentially, right now, Claude is trending. So let's say Claude plus CyberSec. What would that mean? Claude plus CyberSec. What could I do? What could I say? What could be the lead magnet, What could be a funny video about Claude plus CyberSec? I don't know. But this is right now, you latch on a trend. So whatever the next trend is, you wake up, you're like, damn, this is trending right now. It's just kicking off. You immediately start thinking, okay, Claude plus my CyberSec, or plus some famous guy in the CyberSec industry, right? You need to be thinking outside about some, you need to have these sort of, maybe not just yourself, but like somebody in your team who's a bit creative, right? That could think about it. What is it that we could post about this? Because your alternative, if you're not going to do this, you're going to spend money on ads. And that's like super expensive. First of all, you have, think about it this way, that the brand recall on ads is far, far weaker than the brand recall on organic posts. Think of it this way, right? So, and it is true, because I can tell you that there are still people that would remember my post from 1st of April from last year when I was fired. And people say, Frank, that post on April Fool was so good. It was like the top 5 posts that I've ever seen in my life. So sometimes you don't do a C for the reach or everything. You're doing for a strong brand recall. So think about what could give you a strong recall on, say, Frank or the brand or whatever. So what I do all the time when I post stuff is I make sure that naturally there's this bacon emoji, right? So top right. And it says even my headline, I help you to bring home more bacon. So people will remember me, the guy that helps me to, who's the guy? Oh, it's Frank. Yeah, Frank's helped me to bring home a bacon. Why is the bacon even a thing, So first of all, naturally in the US, you've got folks that will typically say, hey, guys, let's bring home the bacon. It was about commission, about revenue, about money. But then nobody in the sales technology landscape was using the bacon emoji. I thought to myself, damn, this would be a fantastic emoji or a thing that I could build my sort of cultural affinity around, because there's a lot of salespeople that just connect with me that would typically tell me, Frank, I fucking love bacon, and they just connect with me because of this cultural affinity.
Funny enough, I was searching for your name. I forgot your second name earlier on, but I put in bacon and you came up straight away. It's just interesting. Yeah.
So what is the thing that you think about when you think about Ian, What's the other thing that you think about when you think about Ian? Or when you think about the other thing, you're thinking about Ian, So it's the brand association. So I'm trying to associate my personal brand with bacon, and then it gets associated with my company, right? And then that's how I think about sort of how does psychology actually work in the human's brains.
As you're scaling the business, it's very much around you. As you scale it to even more revenue, how are you going to remove yourself from that?
Well, this is where you need these what's called lieutenants in the business. So like the VP, the CROs, whatever you want to call them. So I'm literally, there's one guy that's joining me right now in about a week's time. So he's finally going to replace me. So he's going to be in charge of the bacon team, But still, I'll still be around. I'll still be most likely doing demos. I'm just going to focus on a few other parts of the business. But yes, you will need to find these lieutenants, but they are typically heads of, they're very strong in that particular area, right? So, and so it's like at this stage, what's the most important thing in the company is to find these lieutenants that you can install in a particular area, growth, organic, YouTube, sales, whatever you name it. Because guess what? You'll need to do these CEO things in the future. So it's less about being in the front line. It's more about empowering these lieutenants and making them great so they can do a good job.
Yeah.
That's really so 1 to 3 million, I would say, somewhere in that range. That's all about you and the founders. I would say from 3 million to 10 million, it's about hiring the lieutenants, installing them. They scale your company. You still are the brand of the company. I'm still going to do my LinkedIn posts. I'm still going to go to events, etc., right? Because I'm helping my lieutenants to succeed. And then from there on, it just, more systems, again, more lieutenants, more people, and more agents. Very important to not forget that the way I think about scaling, I always think about agent first scaling, because that's what will keep me very capital efficient. I will never need to do layoffs. It will be strange for a company like us to do layoffs when we have so many agents from the day zero. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
It's lean.
So
Yeah.
you're always lean, lean and mean at all times, whether you're at 1 million, 5 million, 10 million, 50 million. And that capital efficiency will be rewarded by the market, by the investor, because this is where the reward will be, or it is already today, and will be even more so if you can show to investor how much revenue per employee are you generating. And guess
Yeah.
what? The
Profitability.
valuation massively skyrockets then.
On the future then on hiring, what are you assessing when you're hiring salespeople, GTM talent at the minute?
Good question. I get this question asked time to time, Frank. What are the best salespeople, etc.? And the fun fact is the question that they ask me.
Interesting.
It's
Yeah.
not.
That tells you everything.
That tells me everything. Yeah, how they brain things. What are they curious about? How they're trying to figure out how does this commission structure work, asking about why people buy, why people do not buy, telling me how they use, they're asking me whether we use Claude internally, or like how many agents we're running, how many agents can I buy,
So the curiosity piece is so important then. The
yes,
curiosity
because
about you.
yesterday I was interviewing somebody. She says, "No, I don't have any questions." I was like, "Okay, cool." It doesn't seem like there's a fit. Yeah, the
Yeah.
when people are very, very curious about your business, they want to have sort of they want to have skin in the game. They want to feel like they were part of a journey, so that they will have questions. When they're just looking for a job, they don't have questions. They just need a job, and that's it.
Yeah.
So if you have too many of those people that just need a job, then things will not, grow as fast as you want them to be, because you need as many people as possible where they're always curious, they care about customers, they want to find ways to grow. They have, they think outside the box, what sort of experiments could we run, what creative things we could do on LinkedIn, movie skits, whatever you name it, whatever we're doing. But I think today, apart from having these sort of AI native employees and stuff like that, actually you want to have as many people as you can in your business that care about the business as much as you do as a founder. I know it's difficult, but you can still find people that deeply care about your business, that care about your customers, and they care as much as you do, because they also want to tell everybody that they were part of this journey in 5 years. I feel very proud about being in that business. It's like probably, scaling up OpenAI or Claude right now. You'll be able to tell in 10 years that you were the one of the, key people in the business that did that actually. Right? And there's a few other things that I look at, at folks, for example, apart from just, asking me questions. Other signals, and it's called the default signals, would be people that travel a lot. I do see correlation between traveling and being very strong employees. I also see a lot of correlation, which kind of the same bucket, when people are when they speak multiple languages, they're much stronger for sales because they understand the cultural nuances.
Mm.
Like a bunch of different cultural nuances, but essentially they're much stronger on the psychology piece when it comes to humans. Yeah, the other thing naturally is, I already mentioned, AI native people. The difference between an AI native employee and the non-AI native employee, and you can really observe, you can bucket people, or you can label them. This is
Yeah,
an
yeah.
AI employee, an AI native employee, and this is an AI native employee. And what is the affinity with our business and our culture, and what is the performance, and all of these sort of bits. And
The travel piece, is that's to do with the culture, I'd imagine, again, is it?
yeah, I think it's the curiosity piece, right, that we discussed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're curious, they want to explore the culture, they crave for something different, the unknown. When people are
Mm.
craving for the unknown, they do really well in sales. It's like, because every prospect they're speaking to, right, you're jumping into new territory, you're not really sure about their context and stuff like that. People get the dopamine hit. It's very
Yeah.
important to figure out what gives people dopamine, and if the unknown is what gives you the dopamine hit, that you're really good for sales. Other signals that I do see is that people play video games. Strong signal for good talent, because in video games it's all about systems as well, right?
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
figuring out how to play how to win the game, and stuff like that. So they've been training during the childhood years, and I'm typically searching for these signals on their LinkedIn profile. So today I don't use CVs, for example, at all.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just look at this. I
Yeah.
just look at this LinkedIn profile, and when I don't see a signal, then the probability of me even wanting to even interview them for stage one, yeah. So yeah, there has to be something like like even one or two signals for me to be feeling excited.
And I suppose, is there any big learnings that you had over the last 2 years that you're like, wow, I didn't expect that?
Well, I'm a first-time founder, so I guess
Yeah.
everything is a learning just jelly, right? So if you've done the same thing, second time round, then you know what you're up to. I think the biggest learnings for me are always the humans. I typically say the way you run an organization, any organization, whether that's a team or the whole company, is there's three of these sort of things that you need to think about: process, technology, and people. You need to have the right tech, the right process, and the right people. And I would say there's not much to learn around process or tech. Sure, the tech changes, process changes, whatever, But the people part, oh, that's the biggest bit. But like essentially, it's about finding the right people, attracting the right people. It's about retaining the right people, promoting the right people as well, weeding out the wrong people from your business, the bad apples, as well, and what they are truly motivated about and not. And I think a lot of things you will see about the true face of a person is when they would go through a lot of the bad times in the company, or a lot of the
Sure.
friction, or what happens if a customer breathes down your neck or tells you they will churn, or like all these moments, and then you see the real person in them. What actually happens when the shit hits the fan, essentially. So you learn about people and how they operate and how they think, and then that goes into my hiring decisions, essentially.
Frank, that was fantastic.
Thanks so
Really
much.
enjoyed it. Yeah, hope you enjoyed it as well. If people wanted to find you, how do they do that? You're obviously on LinkedIn. You're on everything else as well. What's your name on it?
Frank Bacon.
Frank Bacon.
Apparently, according to you.
Just put in bacon. That's all you need to do, and he comes straight up.
Yes. So yeah, if somebody wants to find me there, or you can find me on our website. I'm sure I'm watching you. I typically would send these gifts as well. If a person enters my profile, I would send this GIF where I'm just doing this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks, Frank.